Hi everyone, and welcome to the first event for AGDA for 2016. So tonight we bring you Shut Down, which is the first time it's run in WA. Tonight we'll hear, go behind the scenes and hear war stories from 3 creative veterans of the Perth industry.
Great touch on that.
So I'm just going to keep it really short and get straight into it. So our first speaker has worked all over the world, Scotland, New York. He came back to Perth to establish a little small, mid-sized branding studio called Block. So Mark Braddock, guys.
Thanks. I think the challenge trying to put this together was really in how it can just not turn into a bitch session about how my brilliant stuff isn't bought all the time. So what I wanted to do was just really try and, I guess, take some lessons from having work shot down and destroyed. The other thing I realised is it was a stark reminder of how little of what we do actually sees the light of day. I think it was a massive deal to try and cull this down to 3 projects. I think probably about 95% of what we do never sees the light of day. So I've kind of got 3 projects that are hopefully take a different slant on it. So the first really talks about what happens when a new brand manager or marketing manager or CEO takes over mid-project. And it pretty much, again, probably 95% of the time spells the death knell for what you're doing. It's natural for the new manager to want to leave their mark on the brand. But while it's a natural reaction, it certainly isn't pleasant. So how do you deal with that? I guess I've learned to be annoyingly resilient. Pretty much from day one, that first meeting when they review the year's worth of work you've put into something, that things aren't going to go necessarily well. But you want to make it as tough on them as possible to fire you, and really just keep coming back and back and back and back until out of desperation they have to tell you you're fired. So this project was for, and probably a lot of you guys, a brand that you've touched over the years, for Browns. It's also my longest project in this series, because I felt that it was only fair, after 2 years of our suffering, that you could probably suffer through it as well. So what I've done is get every one of the presentation slides that we presented to the client over 2 years, and I'm going to take you through them one by one. Don't worry, there's only 350. So we were approached by Browns to discuss originally a kind of artisanal cheese product. Basically, they were making lots of cheese down south, but they hadn't sold cheese for a long time, and with the way the milk and cheese industry was going, they wanted to create a artisanal brand so that they weren't competing just in the I guess what's called white milk and kind of commodity cheese. So we started with a presentation that looked at, you know, their problems, their issues, where cheese is going, where cheese has been, where cheese could be. The shelves, we looked at lots of graphs where we said, look, there's colours and stuff, and you can probably own areas and move things up and down everywhere. There's definitely opportunities here. I think we should really talk further about where these things could go. And it could, you know, there's these areas in the market at the moment. These are where the others are competing. These are the looks. This is it's feeling like. So, you know, maybe we could work together on what would it look like if Browns, which is the oldest continuous dairy in Australia, actually created a kind of heritage brand product. And then we thought, well, you know, maybe the actual brand itself, the product itself could be the brand. So we could, you know, actually create something like the cheeseable. So we created this wedge of cheese that was going to revolutionise cheese. So then we developed it and it became, we named it, we developed this history, we named it Billy Cart Hills. Obviously it's, you know, a place from an imagined time before now. We went through all of these options going, you know, we could sit at the premium range, we're obviously competing against those. So rarity scale. So then the CEO kind of went, yeah, that's great, but that deals with the stuff at the supermarket. He wanted to put out some, you know, really premium cheese because they're winning big awards. And we thought, what happens if we created the most expensive cheese Australia has ever seen? And actually use that as a starting point. So we invite only, and Billy Cart Hills became this reserve. So we developed the reserve, and then that was going to influence the supermarket brand, and you had to be invited, and there was all going to be these things that had iPads and stuff. And so we looked at the numbers and thought that was a really interesting way to go, and then it'd allow us to promote it almost as almost a fashion brand, and how would that fit with the other areas I wanted Billy Cart Hills to go. Okay, what would that look like with a restaurant where it has to be white label, and they could, I'm going the right way. And then, so Billy Cart Hills became this, you know, since 1932, Billy Cart Hills was the way it was going to go, and Billy Cart Hills was this imagined place of, you know, perfect Australian childhoods and cows. So lots of stories about all of that and how West Australian production and how it's been a wonderful artisanal project. Back to the packaging, you know, okay, like, you know, very simple, a bit hard to distinguish them, so we kind of looked at a system whereby the colours distinguish them, made up the names all based on characters from the history of Browns, Hooley's Lane, Shenton Farm, Two Horse Run, all those stories that underlay all these names. And we had the newest range from Australia's oldest dairy. Excellent. So then, they thought, yeah, that's all well and good, but we actually have a farm. It's a real farm that we bought, this family farm down near Albany. Can we see what happens when we actually, you know, give it some actual location and providence? So Raven Hill Farm was born. You know, what could that look like? How could we give the sense of, you know, a single source artisanal product? You know, this isn't a big brewery, a big dairy doing this. This is, you know, straight from the farm gate. So we explored all these farm gate options, loving it. We kind of settled on this direction of Raven Hill Farm, and this kind of almost amateurish Raven figure that feels like he's been around for forever. It's great. This attitude works brilliantly through all media. Let's do the cheese, you know, let's go with the farm gate idea, make it look like it's, it's produced in small batch, which it was, produced in small batches and crafted in the Southwest, and when we come to launch it, we can do this stuff. Great, brilliant. Can we look at some other directions? What happens if it's more family friendly? Yeah, that's what it would look like. What happens if we went kind of, not quite so family friendly, went a little bit more, I don't know what colour this is. And then finally we came back, no, the crow's the way to go. Let's develop that. We wanted to introduce milk now, not just cheese. So what it's going to look like on milk? How do we get the same feeling on milk? How do we develop the cheese range so that the different cheeses are distinguished? And they've all got the same word on them, I'm not sure why. And what does that look and feel like? And you've got this wonderful, beautiful world of artisanal cheese. Great. Different options. Can we see less, more? And then we have to launch this. We're not sure about the Raven, he's a bit scary. But we've booked a stand at the Good Food Show, so we've got a shitload of cheese that we need stickers on. Okay, no worries, we'll get something done just in the interim for that. We employ a new marketing manager at this stage, and basically ask us what we've been doing for the last year or so. We take them through that, but they have these other diagrams that they like, which is these need states, and how does it fit into these need states? And it's a good point. So, what is Ravenhill? Is it the products? Is it the actual brand? What would happen if we're actually starting this? So we're going, okay, what do we do from here? And we kind of go, well, Ravenhill could be high end, it could be low end. It doesn't really matter. It's if one farm is producing this, it kind of can be all of those things. Marketing manager also, thought our process was maybe a bit loose and needed, tightening up. So we then had to go back and kind of create these creative solutions so that you could see where particular ideas are coming from. This one's called Heritage, and that's what heritage could look like on the Ravenhill corporate brand. And this one's called Farmgate, and that's what it could look like at Farmgate. And then this is called Contemporary, and then that's what Ravenhill could look like, contemporary like that. What would the milk packaging look like? And this is called Pure Contemporary Country Fare. And I'm sorry, I missed a few of that. And then there's Farm Kitchen Craft, another big movement, and then Wholesome Family Fun. Like we could operate, find solutions in all of these. We just need to know where we're working. So. Getting into the cheese, naturally farm-driven, approachable minimalism, artisanal tradition, all areas worth pursuing. Back to our crow, who's now more refined, and you see the triangular shape of cheese becomes the hill, and he's standing proudly on it. He's no longer hard-edged and mean-looking. Oh God. Okay, so back to what does the packaging then look like if we're going this direction? So this is what the milk looks like. Perhaps the milk could look like that because it's different. And then this is cheese again, and so if these could look approachable minimalism, that looks like this, and we're going, okay, they love the approachable minimalism. We're onto something here. They love the brand mark. They love the crow. Oh, that was like, what happened? Can we get more specific with it? We put farm in Albany in case you didn't know where it was coming from. And so, previously we had the crow separate to the brand mark, so, maybe we need to put those things back together, and what does that look like? And what's going to look like in different sizes and different, varieties, and then no, it's actually better when the crow's separate from the brand mark. And then, okay, what's the cheese packaging looking like now? Love this. It kind of, sits in the right spot. Do a sleeve, the nice black packaging, the colour, minimal colour. It's going well. We're getting somewhere. Then we're looking at typeface. We've almost got this because we're looking at different typefaces on the cheese, and we're like, this is it. We've got it. Nailed it. So our recommended range, that's what the range was, is going to look like. Okay, but the problem, maybe the again, we're not really sure with the Raven Hill way, but what happens if we put the farm in Albany? Can we integrate that more? But then we turned the guy around so he could fit the words around him. Great, cool, just small little changes, details kind of in, I think this is typefaces. Oh, some more typefaces, but bigger difference. We want to see more different typefaces. So more different typefaces. This is cool. We're almost there because this is pretty much ready to go. Okay, what does it look like with food service packaging? Brilliant. And then that was it. Yeah. So that was the end of that project. Decided that that's not what they're going to do. So we invented this, beautiful brand that's never going to see the light of day. So there's another area we work in and have sporadically since we started, and that's in the area of creating concepts on a almost freelance basis for agencies, and it just came out of where I originally been working in the States. And these projects come up every few years. Haven't done one for a long time. But we know from the beginning that the chances are this work isn't going to be bought. We're kind of producing fodder for pitches or alternatives if the in-house departments got stuck. They could potentially happen, but chances are they're not going to happen. So this work goes back probably 10 years or more now. So this was some concept work we did for a Coke product that became Coke Zero back in, I guess, when most of you were still embryos. And this kind of graphic language and has really kind of informed a lot of work we've done since then. For Quiznos, some company, the idea here was to get Shag to do a series of commercials, but in the way that we kind of put this stuff together, there's a lot of learning I guess in learning how to create these images that's really informed work we've done since then. This is the last project we worked on for Morgan Stanley, which big capitalist pig company. So this idea was really about how do we. Well, this look was really about how we bring art and a sense of community into what they do. And again, it was just a great opportunity to experiment with type and, on these global clients that, if you actually have the idea that, you think it would be really good to have a Richard Serra create a sculpture, there's probably actually the possibility that if they bought it, it would actually happen because we've got more money than God. So the idea was to bring these artists in. This never went anywhere. It was a bit too dark and arty for them. And then another look for the same idea was a series of take the share pages in newspaper, and this kind of life bursts out of this box. And so again, this kind of layering and the opportunity to do this type of work really informs a lot of the other work we do. And then there's just those cases when I wish they bought it because I find it funny. This is a campaign we wanted to do for feral. It's based on it's feral, but it's very tasteful. So things like the Queen fighting in the lift of Ed Harrods was feral, but kind of tasteful. And that's kind of it. I guess my thoughts on this kind of shop down area. At the end of the day, I think we can sit around bitching about it, but really, nobody wants to hear whining designers and creatives talk about why, their genius hasn't been given the dues it deserves. So basically, if there's some tips for you, it's just get over it. The chances are you're not that good anyway. I think we're all, like to think we're better than we are, and there's a billion solutions to every problem. And I think if you can keep coming back to it, the chances are the one you happen to stumble on in the first place probably wasn't the best one anyway, unless you were really, really good. And we're not putting hearts in babies, as we like to say. It's really not that important. What we're doing is not that important. Putting hearts in babies is really important. So thank God, because we'd be absolutely hopeless at that. We just have to keep a sense of reality. So at the end of the day, we get a shitload of stuff shot down, but chances are, like fascism, it was probably a bad idea in the first place.
Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker started JuiceBox in his living room in a share house on Lake Wonga. Today it's gone up to be a full-fledged, full-service agency. So, Joel Pember.
Hello. Certainly not a veteran, very much a rookie, paper. Cool. Thanks, first of all, Mark. That presentation was awesome and an absolute overload. Certainly not a veteran at all. I've sort of just, I guess, landed where I am, and thankfully I've got an awesome team around me to do what we do every day. For those of you that don't know JuiceBox, it's a pretty, I guess, young company, or at least new on the scene in terms of what is traditionally the agency scene in town. And we were born out of my share house in a living room, and then we moved to North Perth, and then we're in Highgate, and we're certainly overcrowded where we are at the moment, with me sitting arm's length from the garage door at the back of the building. But it's an absolute privilege to be asked to talk tonight, especially alongside Mark and Craig. I think, first of all, with regards to this subject, I really found it a bit of a balancing act. I share, Mark's sentiment in the fact that, for me, I sort of thought, client bashing isn't a good thing. In fact, we really do exist to serve the client. So I really did want to approach this talk, from that angle. When I sort of found it a little strange, to be honest, right? I thought, this is gonna, this sort of threw me off balance a little bit, and I thought, it's a really fine line, to support and try and prove these ideas that we think are great, but then, to client bash at the same time, and so, that's a point that I really want to, stress throughout this presentation. So, I was lucky enough to listen to Russell down at Emergence Creative a couple of weeks ago, and for those of you who don't know Russell, You know, he's grew up in Derby, up north, and you know, he was making, you know, he basically threw everything on the line and went and became a world-class fashion photographer. And he said, you know, a point that really resonated with me, and he said, we exist solely to serve the client. Yes, we draw on our skills, our experience, you know, and our talent wherever possible, but ultimately the client is you know, is king, and you know, or queen, you know, depending on whatever the client is. But you know, it's a really important point as designers and as creators that we really do need to remember. And talking of kings and queens, it reminded me of this piece that we created for Mrs. Brown Bar in North Fremantle. Queen Elizabeth in the foreground, you know, looking cool with the Ray-Bans, and the King of Pop on the wall in the background. I don't know if you guys can see Michael Jackson there, but you know, the subject did allow me to sort of reflect on a piece that we created and hung on the wall outside our office, you know, back on Angove Street. And you know, this is when it was a relatively small team of designers and developers. And I think even back then we were very much aware of you know, the importance of the client and the importance of having good clients. You know, they really are everything. So I think, you know, when it comes to great ideas, you know, it's really important that we take the, you know, client along for the ride. You know, and even better, let them think that it's their idea. You know, which we do in a hell of a lot of cases, because then it will never get shot down. So, you know, I guess the theme of my talk tonight is very much about how not to get shot down. You know, getting shot down sucks. You know, it's you might have all these grandiose visions for an idea, but you're probably getting shot down for a very good reason. Alright, so what am I going to talk to you about tonight? Well, I did want to mention that the weather's looking really good on the weekend, and the food truck rumble is on in the Cultural Centre on Sunday, so if you're hungry, get down there and take a look. That's not the reason that I'm going to talk to you tonight, but it is a good thing. 40 trucks apparently, it's quite good. So, what I'm normally sitting in one of your chairs. I'm not normally up here, if you haven't noticed. I'm pretty rubbish at it. So, I asked myself, well, what would I want to hear from someone like myself from a talk like this, idea about being shot down? And I thought to all the presentations, I mean, I'm normally out there listening and learning, and I'm a sponge when it comes to, you know, listening to people that I've always looked up to, people like Mark and Craig. And I've always loved the talks that I guess take an open source mentality. You know, I think the creative industries and the design industry is very much, you know, about awards and talent and all this, whereas the digital world is very much about open source and doing it together and coming together. And I think that we're sort of reaching a time where that's becoming more important than anything, that we, you know, share all information and all processes so that we can, you know, do a better job. So for me, that was a big part of it. And you know, open source is a mentality that I'm going to drive through this presentation tonight. So what does that look like? Well, you know, the idea of open source is that I'm just going to share our process. You know, we now are a team of 24 people, which sounds like a lot. But the fact of the matter is, we were born out of you know, a love of design and a love of digital, and we've got a really great team of developers and designers. And we've always, you know, we weren't born from, I guess, typical agency stock. We just did what we did and did what we could, as best we could for the clients. And to streamline that process and to make sure that the client experience was the best it could be, and to make sure that we, we're delivering on creativity, because that's what we love to do, was really important to us. But at the same time, we did have to stay in business. We really did want to, earn a buck and survive for the next day. We didn't have awards and accolades to build on and grow on. So this open source idea is that, if we could take processes that existed out there, implement them, redistribute them, modify them, or even just throw them in the bin if they weren't any use to us, was something that really drove through our business. So I'm looking back at JuiceBox and the clients over the years, we certainly haven't had a heap of madman style campaigns or large high rolling clients with endless budgets. We from day one have worked really hard and extended ourselves to carefully balance good creativity, good design work, good digital work that tries to push the boundaries, with the limited budgets that we have. I mean, we have our feet firmly planted in SME territory. We do the best that we can within that space, and thankfully through the passion of the people that exist within the walls and the talent of the people that we all surround each other at a JuiceBox, we've managed to improve and over it's I think it's nearly 8 years now since we registered the company. Start to get a little bit of recognition, which is fantastic for us, because it means that clients are finally starting to trust us also. So this is a picture of us back in my living room in the Monga share house, and this is a very serious meeting where I think it was one of our birthdays, and that is actually, if you can see that tiny piece of paper up on the whiteboard, the first JuiceBox website. And I think it was trying to be something between a broadsheet /6000 music thing that also showcased design. But we looking at us all there, I was the photographer, graphic designer. Jared was the web designer before he even knew what UX and UI was. Chris was the developer, the guy that had worked in the banking industry doing financial calculators. Together, in that room, we actually saw some what we felt at the time were quite significant clients, and it really did grow from there. So, what is in the theme of open source? I just thought I'd talk to our process. When it comes to the design angle, it is an AGDA talk tonight, and yes, we do digital as well, and that's a whole other kettle of fish. But the design angle for our agency has evolved over the years, and it's evolved because of the client. The client, and the fact that we wanted to get more out of the dollars that they were handing to us to achieve X. So for us, it was a little bit of research at the front end, mainly because we needed to understand what the hell we're doing, but more, then we moved into explore. Now the dotted line is actually client involvement, and where it bloats out is where the client's really getting sticky. So out at the front end, we'd meet with them, learn a little bit, then we'd move into the explore phase, and it was very much us disappearing for a while and coming away, creating 3 whole concepts for a brand, and mainly brand identity. In the early days, there certainly wasn't much theory behind it. It was more, let's grab a few good ideas, make sure it's delivering our message for a company or an organisation. Create 3 concepts of that, multiple logo options for people to choose from, and then present those 3 and go, right, which one do you like? And they go, I like that one, but I also like that one and that one. Maybe mix those 2 and cross that one. No, actually use that font and bring that colour over, and then we would move into the refined stage where you can basically see that shoelace of a absolute mess where we would be informed, by the client, and then finally present that, dictated to by the client. That's probably a better way to put it. And then we would have one concept, finally, and it would be very, very hard work. A lot of hours. We almost saw it as a loss leader approach in some ways, and that's no disrespect to the creative team at JuiceBox, because the designers, the passion was there. We wanted the work to be the best it could be, but the engagement existed beyond the creation of a brand identity. A lot of the time, the brand identity, the website deliverable, the digital strategy deliverable behind it was the catalyst for engagement. The brand identity and even a refresh or the position of what they wanted to do with the company was an afterthought for these people. They just, I just need a website, I just need to go online, mate, just put me online. And it's like, okay, well that's cool, but you look like shit, and you're not really saying anything with any clarity, so can we have a crack at improving that as well? Yeah, if you want. So, we had to evolve these processes and streamline them as best we could. And eventually we'd move into a style guide and a rollout stage. These days it's very different. I just want to show also, that's the PDF iterations of presentations that existed off the back of one of those styles, that process. So you can sort of see how many reviews and iterations there actually are when you look at those shoelaces up there. Now, we've moved, over the years, 8 years now, we've obviously moved a hell of a long way from that. And in fact, the siloing or the design department no longer looks anything like what it did. In fact, the digital designers, they sit right alongside the print designers these days. They're one and the same. And they collaborate and they think and they look at everything and together, because it's one communication piece these days. It's not obviously siloed pieces of output, one being graphic design, one being web design and development. So what does it look like these days? Well, we've matured, I guess. We weight the front end of our project in a hell of a lot of theory, and it was great to actually see, the theory of Mark flicking through, 50 slides of graphs and words and 300 slides of research and mood boards for us. In that green component represents majority, if not, it's 25% essentially of the project these days. We run workshops, we run surveys, we run interviews. It's very much theoretical before we even get to creating anything in a visual sense. So, but even when we've developed the brief, and done our research and created those mood boards, we then put those two directions in front of the client, and we only give them two, option A, option B, and it's a sliding scale between you're either here or you're here or somewhere in between. So you tell us roughly where you're landing, because the research says you can't be anywhere else. And they're pretty happy to, at that point, go, we're pretty much right there. So we go away and explore that and fully, I guess develop and make sure that idea is the best it can be, and then we present one concept. There's only ever one these days, and to this date, 100% success rate on that. We will only refine minimally. That might be, when I say refine, it might be colour variations, probably very minimal as well. And then it's approved and roll out in style guide, and that for us has taken us a long time to learn. But I guess it didn't come overnight, because we didn't have any formal training, if you will. We had technical skills, we had design skills, we knew how to code, but we didn't know how to actually manage the client and ensure that they weren't going to sort of shoot us down. And we didn't ever go down in a blaze like the promo for tonight actually depicts, but we certainly had to learn the hard way, and it's been a hell of a long road for us to get there. So that's how the folder looks these days, a little bit shorter. and the other one. But I thought I'd just finish by saying that, you know, for us, we're sort of thrilled that JuiceBox has sort of reached a point. We feel like we're just about to rebirth, if you will, and sort of start operating in a new space. We're you know, we've been operating with small to medium business for a hell of a long time, and only just recently, just because I guess we've got the runs on the board, we've got the people now in house and the resources to, you know, fully deliver on larger clients and larger ideas, and, you know, to be able to sort of, I guess, move into a space where we can be more creative and dream a little bigger is a great thing that we're really excited about. Now, all these logos that you're seeing up there, they actually never saw the light of day. They were very much in that shoelace part of those diagrams back there, and you know, there's been a hell of a lot of them over the years that designers at the back standing up there having their beer have laboured over for a hell of a long time. But I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight, and yeah, have a good night. Bye.
Thanks, Joel. Our final speaker for tonight started off his career as a graphic designer, but now today he leads one of the largest teams creative teams in WA, and is the creative director of the brand agency. So welcome, Craig Buchanan.
Okay, I want to start by asking if there's any clients here. There probably is, but they're too scared to say anything, right? Like, just put up your hand, it's okay. No clients? That's kind of good. So, like, if I offend anyone, then they're not a client, they're just like you guys, so that's okay. Okay, when I first started, okay, so Ting and Dan contacted me and said, Craig, do you want to give a talk? I'm like, yeah, it's cool, I'll do it. And then I saw the shot down thing, and I started looking at some of my old work and stuff, and where's my clicker? There we go. I love emojis. It just made me sad, and it made me kind of frustrated and angry kind of thing, and I think there's enough of that in this industry, and so I'm not going to talk about anything that was ever shot down. Sorry, Ting. Where's Ting? I love you, man, but I'm not going to do it. And yeah, I just didn't feel like that it was the right thing to kind of talk about. So tonight, I'm going to talk about work that was, there we go, I don't have any slides, that succeeded and actually got up and ran. So you're not going to see anything that was ever shot down. I hope that's okay. I'm going to show you something that I just love, just because I love it.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
I really hope there's lots of crazy people in this room, because you guys are the ones that are going to do some amazing work. A couple of interesting facts about this commercial. People think that Steve Jobs actually wrote it. He didn't, but he did voice it, right? So that's actually the voice of Richard Dreyfuss, and Steve Jobs also voiced it. And on the day that it was supposed to go to air, Steve Jobs decided that it was better to have Richard Dreyfuss' voice and not Steve's voice, so people would think about the brand and not Steve Jobs. But my point is, imagine presenting to this guy, right? He's intimidating, he owns the company, he has the vision. I think that that would be incredibly scary, but at the same time really, really good, because you're talking to the person who makes the decisions. So my first tip, I guess, or advice, is to present up the chain, up the food chain as much as you can. Like, get to the boss, get to the person who can actually make a decision, rather than, it's a terrible term and I hate it, but junior burgers, right? They're really more worried about what their bosses think than having an opinion themselves. So whenever you can, present your work to the boss. Now this work I did some time ago, and it's a good example of doing that. What happens when you get to present to the CEO? We were supposed to rebrand the turf club, which I don't know what it's called now. What's the turf club called, Steve? WA Racing, yes. So we were to rebrand it. We did some really interesting work, and we presented to the marketing people, and they pretty much just didn't get it, and they kind of were confused. And what they really wanted was pictures of pretty girls with hats, right, jumping up and down. Oh yes, yes. Thank you, Dean. So this is the work that we created, and it was pretty much the opposite to what the marketing people wanted to see. So we heroed the horses and the jockeys and all those sort of people. So what happened is the work was first rejected, and then our account director at the time, he had this idea that he would go direct to the CEO and show him this work, and he absolutely loved it. In fact, not one word was changed, and they didn't even make the logo bigger. He requested that we print out this work really big, and he framed it and he put it in his office. So that's my first bit of advice, is present as far up the chain as you, food chain as you can. MS, so again, this was an example. The CEO of MS, Dave Buchanan, is that his name? Yeah, thank you. He he's really hands-on, like a Steve Jobs, that kind of person. We presented this work, which was really different for this sort of very conservative client, all based on stories of real MS sufferers. To the point where he actually got involved in the artists that we commissioned. So we commissioned 3 artists from all around the world, he was really hands-on, and I think that it's a good example. When the boss gets involved, shit happens. Oh, this is my pretty much my idol in terms of, most of you guys would know this guy, yeah? That's what they based Mad Men on, apparently. This is Bill Bernbach, and he was the founder of DDB, pretty much the most successful advertising network in the world. And he's just an amazing person and pretty much, I guess, the founder of creative advertising and communications, really, from the 50s. Anyway, he had a thing he used to say. He had a card, right, made up, and it just said, they might be right. And what he meant was, whenever you go into a meeting with a client, consider that they might be right. Now, when I first started off in this industry, like, I was the only one that was right, and if clients wanted to do anything, I would just disagree. But I was wrong, okay? And I've learned to listen and always consider that they might be right. It is their money we're spending, not ours. I think that's my second tip, maybe my third, I don't know. All right. St. John. Now, this is an example of being, I guess, that the client was right and maybe we were wrong. You will probably have seen this campaign. It won lots of awards internationally, and but the journey was pretty rocky. I guess you know, our ideas are like our babies. You know, we give birth to them and we love them. One of the hardest things that a human being can do is come up with an original idea. When a client tells you that your idea sucks and it's fucking ugly, right? Then that really, really hurts. You know, you come up with this great original idea, and then some random person's going, "Hey, we don't like that. It's ugly," and that really, really hurts. But you have to get over that. You have to do something better, right? There is no such thing as anything being shot down. If something gets shot down, it's for a reason, and you must come up with something better. With this particular campaign, we had to like get people to do first aid courses and stuff. And where's David Donald, my partner in crime? Yes, Diamond. All right, so we came up with not one, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 ideas like that we thought were absolutely amazing, and every single one got shot down because you know, the client was right. You know, it wasn't emotional enough, wasn't this, wasn't that. Eventually, we came up with this this commercial that we call Barrier, and this was the storyboard, and this is the commercial that happened.
Okay.
So that came about after weeks and weeks and weeks of rejection. But guess what? The client was right. If we went for the first script, it wasn't as good. The second one wasn't as good. At the time, we thought they were the most brilliant ideas ever, right? So, you know, like 7 scripts later, we eventually came up with this commercial, and it was incredibly successful. and yeah, but hard work, you know. Oh, the blue boat, right? So, Dean, yes, you would know the blue boat. It's let's bring it back. The blue boat, right? Now, it's okay. It's advertising folklore, right? So, you imagine the art director's doing like a storyboard or some sort of concept or whatever, and he or she puts in a blue boat around a blue boat. It's kind of like a bit weird, like why is there a blue boat there? And so you present this idea to the client, and the client says, "Yeah, I really love it. It's awesome. Like, but I'm not sure about the blue boat, right?" So the art director says, "You don't like the blue boat? Let's get rid of the blue boat." You're probably right, client. Client's happy. We never really wanted the blue boat, right? It's like that thing. You always made the logo 10% bigger, no, smaller, then the client's going to make it 10% bigger, right? But like that's kind of like a bit silly and stuff, but I guess the point is to get the client involved. Think that, they're not stupid. Make them feel like it's they're part of this idea, right? I'm not suggesting we all go and put blue boats and weird shit and everything just so the client, like, they're not that stupid, right? And pretty much all my clients know the story of the blue boat now, so it's never going to work. But I think the point is to get them involved and always remember that they might be right. Okay, UWA. I don't know how many people have worked on a university, but they're one of the hardest clients that you ever have to work on because of the level of approval. So we had a huge brand job to do with UWA to change the perception that they were like a stuffy university and blah, blah, blah. Now, this is a list of the clients. So we have the chief marketing officer and the brand marketing team, and there's about 30 of them, right? The vice chancellor, some professor, right? He's a pretty cool guy, but like, he's hard work. Then we got the Senate. It just goes on and on and on. Even the student guild gets involved. It's like a mini parliament. So this particular campaign took about maybe 18 months and probably about 40 meetings, right? I remember one, which was presenting our idea, which was pretty loose at the time. Like, we don't like to present really finished work. We present just like a concept, like a synopsis. And we had to present to the, what are they called, the Senate? No, yeah, something like that. Like, so you imagine like a room full of like 30 academics, and we presented our idea, and then each one by one, had to talk about like what they liked or disliked, and mostly it was disliking. And they would pick holes in it. It was like, fucking hell, like this is just... Anyway, it sort of got to the end of the 30 people, and there was this older guy, he's about 70 or something, and he looked really fucking mean, right? And I'm thinking, he's gonna tear the shit out of this, just like ripped to threads and all that. Anyway, got to him, pretty much everyone had negative sort of thoughts on the whole thing. Academics hate advertising anyway. And it got to this guy, and he said, I really love it. And I love it because it's exactly what this establishment shouldn't do. And he was fucking right. And everyone else kind of like turned to him and was like, oh shit, smartest guy in the room, right? So pretty much our idea was up at that point. Yeah, I talked about how we like to present work. We don't really present scripts when we start off. Like, you just present it might be just a few words. Let the creative process kind of evolve. So at that point when we were presenting the idea, it was pretty much, it was just a girl who's going to run around the world and talk about ride a trip. She's going to run around the world, and when she stops running, the world stops turning. Okay, it's all about pursuing the impossible. So we got to a point where most of the clients approved the idea, and it's like, okay. Then we did this animatic, which I think is interesting to have a look at.
Stop moving forward, the world stops with us. So chase your dream. It's only impossible until it's done.
So after about 18 months, we were at the pointy end of the process. They have to kind of approve this, and then the client was like, "Okay, Craig, how are we going to do this?" And I said, well, I think the best way is, we'll take a small crew and the talent will go around the world and we'll actually shoot it. And I'm like, are you fucking joking? It's like, this is a client that's never spent any more than probably $50,000 on an ad, and we were, I won't say the figure, but it was like a truckload more than that. I was, I had to convince them, they were saying why don't we do green screen or go around Australia or whatever, and we'll just make it look like she's around the world. And it's like, no, I think we've got to go around the world and we've got to shoot this properly. And that's when it gets really tough to convince the client that you're not just doing this for the most awesome trip ever. You're actually, this is how it's got to be. So this is where we ended up.
When we start moving forward, the world stops with us. So chase your dream. It's only impossible until it's done.
So that took 18 months of fucking hard work and meetings and putting your everything on the line and convincing the client that the only way to do it was to go around the world, and we weren't going to have fun or anything, and we weren't going to switch hotels, but we did. Thank you to Gemma Kay, who's the most amazing producer ever. It's pretty much up, and then 2 days before we're about to fly out, the client wants to have a meeting and talk about some details and stuff. And right at the end, she says, don't Craig. Well, I'll tell you what she actually said. She said, Craig, don't fuck this up. They were the last words she said, and I was like, I'll try not to. And yeah, I think we did a thank you to Penguin Empire and all the awesome people that we worked with, but yeah, pretty much, obviously, a dream job. But yeah, it took a shitload of work and a shitload of convincing to make that happen. Drug aware. How are we going for time? Am I going too over or anything? We all good there? Keep going? Alright, okay. Drug aware. Now, that's another very difficult client, a government client, and the job was to tackle the meth problem, which obviously is a big problem in Perth. So we have, again, multiple clients, starting with the minister, the police get involved, the executive director, drug and alcohol, the mental health department. You know, each of these layers have like multiple people that we've got to convince. And then we got like all these academics and so-called experts, even doctors, and then our client is actually the Drug and Alcohol Office. So with a project like this, it went through weeks and weeks and weeks of focus groups. Now, my advice with focus groups, like we all hate them, but go to them, right? And actually see what people are seeing, so you get your own interpretation rather than someone else's interpretation of what they're saying, which is really important. So this is one of the, we did a bunch of stuff, and I don't know if you've seen this stuff, it's mainly online. I don't know if Matt Pitcher is here, but he was a young director that we put a lot of faith in, and this is one of the films that we made.
Can we have some help here, please?
What's his name? Hi, Daniel.
That's all right, mate.
Dad'll be in the waiting pretty shortly.
No, mate, we're not coming in.
Oh, come on, stop using it, everything. Gracie! Gracie! Hey! No! Don't bring it back! I need help!
It's all right.
Where's your wallet? Where's your wallet? Listening to me, prick? Do you even listen to me? Listen to me! Shut up! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Stop it! Come here, get some help, mate. Yours up.
So there's a bunch of these, one of the challenges was we weren't allowed to show any drug use, which is kind of hard when we do this stuff. was crack house, right? And there was like real cops there and stuff, and they found some real drugs. Don't tell anyone that. But, yeah, just one more in the series. It was a fun shoot, and I gotta play this again. Like, it's pretty, like, sometimes I really, like, I sort of think about, like, that we get paid to do this stuff. It's so much fun, you know? I do it for free. I wouldn't tell, like, my boss that, but, alright, so, pretty much at the end. So here's my, tips. Okay, so present as far up the food chain as you possibly can, because those people can make real decisions. They make their decisions fast. They get on with it, and it just makes it better. Remember that the client might be right. Okay, it's not our money; it's their money. So you got to respect that. Keep going. Like, there is no such thing as an idea that gets shot down, because the next idea will be better. There's always a better idea. Alright, so have a cry, spit the dummy, have a fucking whinge, and then get over it and come back the next day and write something better. Get the client involved. Like, they love what we do, right? They're going to go home at night and they're going to tell their whoever, their partners, whatever. It's like these crazy creatives came in and they showed us this stuff, and they love it. It's the best part of their job. So get them involved and make them feel like they're a part of it. Be positive, you know. I think that this industry, for some reason, and maybe it's the nature of creative people, I don't know, but there tends to be a lot of complaining, a lot of whinging, and all that kind of stuff. That's fucking bullshit, right? We have such a great job. Like, we've just got to get on with it and stop blaming other people for our failures. Show passion, not emotion. When I first started in this business, I showed a lot of passion, but I also showed a lot of emotion, right? And so, that's not a good thing, right? In front of a client, never ever show emotion in front of a client, but show lots and lots of passion. Be honest and transparent. They know when you're fucking bullshitting, right? Just be honest. If something's going to cost more, tell them, and tell them why. They'll believe you. And that's my 7 tips. Alright, so this is the last thing I want to kind of leave you guys with, is be unreasonably optimistic. And the reason I say that is because that's what makes the crazy ones so crazy, right? And they do the best stuff. Okay, I want to, you've probably seen this, and this is a little bit sexist because it talks about a few good creative men, but I think there's more good creative women in this industry than there are men, and they tend to whinge less than the guys do. So anyway, I don't know if you've seen this before, but it's kind of fun.
You ever worked in a creative department, son?
No, sir.
Ever written a great ad?
No, sir.
Ever put your ideas in another man's hands? Ask him to put his ideas in yours?
No, sir.
We write ads, son. We write ads or people die. It's that simple. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Are we clear?
Crystal.
You want great ads.
I think I'm entitled.
You want great ads.
I want a bigger logo.
You can't handle a bigger logo. Son, we live in a world with ads, and those ads need to be guarded by men with big ideas. Who's gonna do it? You? Or you, client service director? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You weep for bigger logos. You curse the art directors. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. That the size of the logo, while tragic, doesn't sell product. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, sells product. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me to write ads. You need me to write ads. We use words like insight, big ideas, surprising execution. We use these words as the backbone of the life spent defending ads. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of creativity in which I provide, then questions the manner in which I provided. I'd rather you just said thank you and went to lunch. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a pencil and write some ads. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
Did you send out an ad without showing the account people?
I did my job. Did you send out the damn ad? You're goddamn right I did! You snotty-nosed little suits.
We might have some questions or something. Like,
Yeah. Any questions, guys? For Craig, Mark, or Joel?
Dean.
It's not particularly important, I'm just interested. In the animatic, you illustrated an animatic for UWA. Early on, the girl was Asiatic.
Yeah.
Was that in the brief?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a big part of.
International.
Yeah. So the girl that we ended up casting, who was an athlete, not an actor, but
So
she
she
could
had to
run
be-
really fucking fast.
So she had to be
But
Asian.
no, just like, yeah, like just an international kind of.
Well, it's
I'm
all to
not
do
too
with-
sure.
It's all to do with universities and government.
No, I know what you mean, and yes, that was a part of the brief.
Yeah, no, it's,
Yeah.
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 With the ones that you shot, the ones that had been shot down prior to when you were reconcepting them, did you have to start from scratch, or did you sort of incorporate elements from both?
No, I think we start from scratch. You've got to like just spin it and move on. You know, I don't even keep old stuff. You know, you just got to move on. It's like just spin it. It doesn't matter how many weeks or months of work. Just move on. And the point is, like, if you've got enough kind of like fire in your belly, you will do something better. You won't let it kind of, you know, yeah, you'll spit the dummy or whatever, and you know, but that only lasts a few hours, and then just get back on the horse and start again, blank piece of paper.
You're taking ideas to a client. How do you keep having confidence in you when you come back from
Well, I think you listen to them. That's really important. So you take the feedback on board, and like I never say no. So if a client says, like, I don't know, I think that would be better blue, right? Then you always say, yeah, that's a really good point. You start at that, because then they have control. And then you say, you know, give me 24 hours, I'll come back. This is what you asked to see. And that works, right? But what about this, right? Maybe this is better, and they'll go for that. But they have control, and they feel good. I know it's called manipulation, but you know, maybe that's part of the gig, I don't know. But I think it's about listening to them and making sure that they know that we're listening to their feedback, because they might be right.
Any questions for Mark or Joel?
Yeah, for Mark.
Yep.
Who paid for that 14 months of brown cheese work, Mark? Sorry.
Mark. Craig, was it fair to show finished?
I don't know.
Thanks.
Sorry, what was the question?
first I'd like to say thank you, Craig. That was a fantastic.
Great.
It was brilliant. Thank you. Who paid for all that cheese work? You
was
or
it
Craig?
paid? A bit of both. I mean, look, we had an original scope of work, and obviously expanded beyond that. We're very particular now with scoping and scope
It
creep.
seems like they didn't know what they wanted.
They knew what problem they were trying to solve. I think at the end of it, it actually ended with the CEO leaving, which is the death now. No, I mean, they didn't, but that's also our job to figure out what they need. But I think,
Because those 350 slides would be, if you put the hours on that.
Oh yeah, I mean at the end of it, but also you get to that point where it's like, no, I'm gonna keep going back to the well, keep going back to the well, because pride's at stake, and but they, I mean, I'm more disappointed because there's a lot of stuff that could have worked for them. I don't think it's ultimately the ultimate, but. It's ended up being wasted. Whatever money they paid us ends up wasted money, and that's just disappointing because there's stuff there that could have worked for them. And that's more disappointing. I think whatever they paid us for, just like that.
No, it's
just wasting money, especially money. I hate that type of thing. You're just pissing money up against the wall. It's taxpayers' money. That's the toughest part. It's not creative. Yeah, we kept going back to that way.
In the mic, Mark. Can't hear it back.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? It was really insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, they got paid. I've got it.
Yeah, we got paid several times. Over for it, but not what it was worth.
The feral brewery packaging.
Yep.
Was it tough to get that over the line? Because it's actually really good.
Thank you. You sound surprised.
It's very out there. It's very out there. It's very good.
Not really. The core, the idea was there from the very beginning and from the initial mood boards that we presented as part of the original proposal. No, because I think it came from who they are, and it's true to who they are. So it fit. So it was really, again, I think Craig mentioned it. Involving the client. I mean, it was from the client. It was, who they are. So we're not trying to impose something on them. But it was the details in that just took a lot of figuring out, and again, it was a similar thing. There were certain elements that just didn't want to move away from. Just kept going back to them and going, how about this? How about this? How about this? To the point where it's like, okay, we give up. And again, the stuff that they argued, we fought over. I think a lot of it they were right on. In hindsight, I think it was probably our creative arrogance rather than actually being true to what they're about.
Good result because I saw the packaging at International Book. Should you know it? Very nice.
Yeah, this could be directed at any three of you, but I'm just. I'm just curious. Is there any particular situation where you could morally or ethically sort of bring back an idea you had from the past and sort of reinvigorate it in some way?
Yeah. Like that's a pretty good point. Like the turf club stuff. Worse than that, right? So we pitched on the TAB, right? And the campaign that we pitched was pretty much the turf club stuff, right? So we didn't win the pitch, But when we got to work on the turf club, we just like changed the logo and a few things, and yeah, it worked beautifully. It actually works better for the turf club than it did for the TABs. So, and I don't like the idea of the TABs. So, yeah, it was all good, win-win. So, yeah, like bring them back. Yeah.
No, we do it. We do it all the time. Because you're presenting so much work. There's a lot of good thinking that goes into stuff. We did a whole, again, another 18 months worth of work for the museum years back. And it's not exactly what was presented. It was informed, typically informed by, you can see their lineage from work we were doing for that's come through a bunch of projects. We were doing some work with tourism. It's similar. Because, it's fun. It's not, good thinking is good thinking. It's not, you don't have to go back to the well every time.
We've got the museum account now.
Oh, do you? I've got some really nice work there.
Just a bit of a follow-up on that question. Like the work that you were paid for the grounds, even though you weren't paid for all of it, do they own that work?
It's a difficult. It's probably a grey area. I mean, our terms say that once the client's paid, they own it for final artwork. Because obviously, if you have it more open than that, potentially the client could own every sketchbook and everything on the server. No, if they've killed the project, probably they don't own that. But then there's certain aspects of that, like Raven Hill as a name, they potentially own. Look, it also comes down to, really, are you going to go and sell exactly the same thing? Yeah, I don't think we'd ever sell exactly the same. Go to Masters and go, here's a perfectly formed cheese brand. It's just.
But can they take that work and use it as well? Are you protected?
Look, it's probably a really grey area. Look, when it gets to that situation, we've been. My point is we're being paid for the work, and we do what we do, and there's a massive grey area when it's finished. But at the end of the day, if they wanted to do that, good luck to them. But it tends to get that work got killed for
It was good
a
work.
bunch of other work. Yeah, thanks. No, you can't have it. I own it more than you do, I think. So yes, they potentially could. It's certainly the name, the naming, all of those things. Look, at the end of the day, it's not about. If they're going to do that, really good luck to them. They're paid to do what we do.
One last one. John mentioned doing focus group testing and surveys and things. Is that something that you two do, or do you find that valuable at
all? Research is definitely valuable, like as much information that we can get from the target audience. But testing an idea fundamentally is flawed because they're not testing the finished thing. You can't storyboard a smile, right? So I think it's the whole idea of focus, testing ideas is absolutely flawed. But it gives clients confidence, like they can go to their bosses and go, hey, look, yeah, exactly. It's a way out, I guess. I hate it, but it's a part of life, and you just got to deal with it. think we're done. Team, over to you.
So once again, I'd like to thank Mark, Joel, and Craig for spending their time tonight. So just wrapping it up. So students, don't forget we have an event on next Tuesday called Fresh Mints. We have a few guest panelists coming along. Just so if you have any questions, you can ask them. Professionals, they're welcome to come along and meet and network with future students and future designers. We have a very exciting calendar planned out for the year, so I hope I get to see you all throughout the year. Thank you. One more thing, I'd like to welcome Media Super as a national partner to AGDA. So Patrick is our rep from Media Super in WA, so if you have any questions about Super, go speak to Patrick. There's USBs at the back that he's giving away as well.